Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever My Ball, My Rules podcast. My name is Sam Collard, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dec and Harry and Harry Dole speak at the same time and confuse everyone whose voices is whose, please.
Hello,
I'm Dec. That's me.
You've ruined that.
hello, I'm Harry.
Yeah, pretty much. We're just another football podcast. Like, it just is what it is, isn't it? Like, it's kind of hard to get more niche than that, really, because it's just football. And lots of things happen in football, and we're going to talk about the things that sometimes happen in football, despite there's no football really going on at the moment. So yeah, the big news today really is actually from a meeting, and that is the EFL deciding to sack off the seasons and promote, relegate, decide playoffs, and so on and so forth. So yeah, boys, what's your thoughts really that going into, leaving this meeting?
Personally, I think they've gone correctly with it. The EFL. I've always thought that you got to give the acknowledgements and the achievements to the teams that have deserved it and performed well. And I know, obviously, the teams that have been promoted today, they didn't get to do it on the pitch, but obviously, this whole pandemic, it's all unprecedented. So you've got to go with the next best thing. And I think this is the next best thing, which is, I'm not sure unweighted points per game was exactly the way to go. I think weighted might have been a bit more accurate, but either way, that's better than just sacking the season off and not doing anything with it and just giving everyone a reprieve. So I agree mostly with the decision they made today.
Talking about those teams that got promoted, it was Coventry and Rotherham from League One, and from League Two, Swindon won the league, Crewe and then Plymouth as well have all gone up. Do you think that's deserved, Harry?
Yeah, I mean they've got the points over a period of time, and looking at some of them, they were probably not going to finish in the playoffs. They were always probably going to go up. So it is very, they were value for money to go up, and I think it is the fairest thing to do for a lot of them clubs.
See, we've had, the likes of Forest Green Rovers being the only ones that voted in favour of actually finishing the season. And if you have a look at kind of their season as a whole, they started off doing extremely well, kind of in and around the playoff and promotion place, and have kind of dropped off so far. Do you kind of think a lot of clubs were voting in self-interest rather than kind of not a lot of clubs, just Forest Green really, rather than the interest of themselves rather than the league?
I think it'd be foolish not to vote in favour of your club's situation. I mean, I can't imagine Stevenage actually voting against playing. Like, the situation they're in, there's no way out of it. So you'd think they'd want to play, but if it was me, I'd want to go to the situation. Obviously, if you're a Plymouth or a Crewe, you just want the season to end.
Yeah.
If you're a Salford or a Forest Green, where there's something you can chase after.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll get on to Stevenage actually, because it's actually quite impressive how they're still bottom despite Macclesfield being deducted 11 points so far. So as it stands, they're still going to be relegated, but obviously there's still the tribunal of Macclesfield when they could be deducted another X amount of points to see them go down. I think currently it's a 3-point gap. So, boys, who do you think should go down?
It's a tough one to call, actually. I probably would say Stevenage, because they've clearly not been as good as Macclesfield this season, despite everything that Macclesfield have had to go through off the pitch. But obviously Macclesfield, they've got to stay in lines with the rules and regulations of the league. So in terms of that, I'd say Stevenage.
Yeah, Harry, you've kind of got a little bit more of a connection to Macclesfield with big Darryl McMahon at the helm there. Like, what's your thoughts?
He's at Dagenham now, isn't he?
Is he at Dagenham? He was, yeah.
Oh,
that's well poor for me.
He's another.
I've had a shocker.
He's another manager they couldn't afford. I think you've got to give Macclesfield a lot of credit for back-to-back seasons. Well, and even the year they won the National League, there was players not getting paid late, not knowing whether they were going to be able to pay bills and things like that. And to go on, and when no one favours you to win the National League, you win the National League. No one favours you to stay up, and then you do it again and again. I mean, I know they're in a relegation place, but they do deserve a lot of credit for what they've done. And Stevenage, I mean, they've got no excuses. They talk about being a real forward-thinking club, and it just hasn't worked for them on the pitch this year. So I think, I agree with. I think Stevenage are probably the right ones to go down.
Yeah, to pick up 20 points I think it's mid-20s points in a 45-game season. Obviously, they could have picked up more points, but you can't realistically say you deserve to stay up on merit when you can't pick up probably 30 points in a season. I don't see how it can be justified
on the pitch.
Yeah,
exactly. They didn't justify on the pitch. That's why I'm leaning more towards Macclesfield staying up, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. So looking into the playoffs now as well, for League One, we've got Wycombe, Oxford, Pompey and Fleetwood. Out of those boys, who's your pick?
I like the look of Oxford. To be fair, they had a decent FA Cup run this year. I think they just miss out on automatic promotion as well.
I think it was close.
They ran it tight. I'd probably say Oxford, especially at home. I feel like at the Cassan, they're very hard to beat. To be fair, Portsmouth as well. You know, they've been in the playoff situation before. You know, they with League One playoffs and Checkatrade Trophy runs and stuff like that. You know, they've kind of got that experience of, you know, winning games in knockout tournaments. So that might prove to be an advantage for them. But I'd probably say Oxford for me.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think Portsmouth and Oxford are probably the favourites going into it. If you look at Portsmouth coming off of last season, losing to Sunderland in the semi-final, winning the Checkatrade Trophy, they've got the experience of them big games. Oxford were quite impressive in their FA Cup run this year, especially in that game against Newcastle. I think it was 4-1 to Newcastle in the end, but early stages of that game, they had plenty of chances to actually take the lead. I think you've got to look out for Wycombe. Obviously, their money troubles coming out of this COVID situation. They're going to have their tails up and they're going to have a bit of something to play for, because that money could well and truly save the club.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that's kind of vital for them. Like I say, we saw Wycombe play earlier on in the season, Dec, and they obviously didn't look great that night as they lost to Tranmere, who we'll get onto in a minute, have actually been relegated. But obviously they're going to be a favourite there. But I just personally can't look past Portsmouth, to be honest. I would say if there were fans there, I wouldn't have a doubt that Portsmouth will win him, because say at Fratton Park, that extra lift the players will get from the fans is massive. But I kind of think in terms of being there before, like Dec said, having the League Two playoff win, and then ultimately the going on to League One as well, and winning the Checkatrade Trophy last year, I think I just can't look past them in terms of that experience. But Oxford as well, and don't discount Fleetwood as well. Big Paddy Madden up front. He's won a League One playoff before.
Imagine how unbearable Joey Barton would be if they could get a Wembley win.
Oh, don't. His Twitter bio really pisses me off, because why is he? It says Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. So he's read one business book, seen a book seen that quote and think, oh, that looks really cool. I'm going to put that in my bio so I look really smart. You don't, Joey. I learned that in A-level business.
It's like a 40-year-old woman's Facebook profile being live, laugh, happy.
It's ridiculous. I just don't. Grow up, man. He beat someone up last year. How has he still got a job? It's what it is. I just don't get it.
I think with Fleetwood, with obviously Joey Barton, I think he's quite emotional, and I think in these type of games, your emotions will get the better of you, and that's not going to work for your team. So that's probably. I know you say don't count them out, but I think the manager is such an influence in these type of games more than any other. So I'd find it hard to see Fleetwood winning the whole thing, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. So moving down to League One now, obviously we've got Tranmere going down. You can't really argue against that, to be honest. They have been the worst of the bunch, and their pitch was genuinely terrible for the majority of the season. So it is what it is. But coming up from League Two, we have either Exeter, Colchester, Cheltenham or Northampton. Boys, are you back in there?
I think Colchester, if it's the first one that springs off the top of my head, I think I'm right. League Two is probably the weakest in all my football knowledge. But if I remember correctly, they were up there beginning of the season till about December time in the automatic places, and they fell out. Obviously beat Spurs in the League Cup.
Do you want to talk about that one, mate?
We lost to a zoo.
ferocious up front.
They're quite good at recruiting lower league players and building quite a good squad, and they always seem to be there or thereabouts and just fall away at the end of the season. But I fancy them to get promoted this year. It's the one that pops off the top of my head when you said the four names.
Okay, Dec, who have you seen that takes your fancy?
I sort of agree with Harry that Colchester's, they've been there or thereabouts last few seasons. Also Exeter as well. They obviously close to automatic promotion as well. But whether that will almost be a reverse psychology for them, time will tell, I guess, because obviously the heartbreak of not getting the opportunity to do it on the pitch and get promoted automatically might have a negative effect on them if they play playoffs. But I feel like they could have the mental toughness for that. So I'll go on a limb and say Exeter.
I think a lot of pressure's on Exeter as well, especially with Plymouth just being promoted.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially in that area.
They lost the playoff final a couple of years ago, and they've always
wasn't it?
Tough, haven't they? Yeah, and it's just not been quite there for them.
Fairly balanced in recent years, Exeter and Colchester, in that sort of area of the playoffs, just like missing out on third and then.
Yeah, I think that those two are the favourites, but they'll be playing each other in the semi-final. So I think whoever wins that game goes on to win it, because Cheltenham, that a good side. No, don't get me wrong, and say they Michael Duff's come in and done a really good job there, but I just don't see them kind of having that edge to go the extra mile. Same with Northampton. So I think it is between Exeter and Colchester, like you say. So we'll take a little bit of a step down now, a little bit into the impacts this will have on non-league. And Harry, I think we spoke about this a little bit before.
Yeah, I mean, there's a meeting today. It's tomorrow, actually, isn't it? Following today's meeting to see what's going to happen and how they're going to decide on what's happening in terms of the promotion spots. Will the playoffs be a 4-team or a 6-team? Start with Dec. Obviously, your side will start in the Conference South, so you haven't got to worry about that playoffs. How do you think the best way to deal with the playoffs would be? Would it be a 4-team system or a 6-team system?
I think the financial implications of doing the playoffs, especially for teams at our level, probably easier to do 4 teams. And there'll be arguments. People like Steve King at Oxford, who very vocal in the non-league paper since the start of the lockdown, probably won't agree with that, as I believe Dorking as the 6th or 7th as well. Mark White, who's also quite an out there character, so they might not agree with that sort of going to 4 teams. But I think most of the teams aren't going to be able to afford to do a 6-team playoff. So I think if they want the playoffs to happen at all, rather than giving, say, someone like Havant an automatic promotion into the National League, I think they might have to reduce it to 4 teams just to get them going, personally. So I think that might be the way they go.
Going with that, you just mentioned about Havant being possibly offered a place of promotion via the second place in the table. That's also been linked with the case of Harrogate in the National League going and taking that second promotion spot. Stan, where do you stand on that and like sending teams up even though they're in a playoff spot?
I kind of think from a place of bias with Yeovil, obviously, I don't want that to happen because, say, I'd love Yeovil to go up. And to be honest, Harrogate haven't really set the world alight this season. Obviously, I do think they have probably been, over the course of the season, the second best team in the league. But I don't think that particularly matters. If it's a league that's been set up for playoffs, you should play the playoffs because you want to keep that sporting integrity there. Obviously, we're in the buzzword is unprecedented times at the moment. And I do get that. But I think we're now in a situation where playoffs are at least somewhat possible. So we should try and make them the league as fair as possible and give the teams that are in the playoffs the opportunity to do that. So whether that's, say, reducing it to 4 teams because the likes of Bournemouth can't afford it because they haven't got the contracted players, or have to bring an extra team in up to play it. So say a Barnet, a Woking, or whoever's in and around it, they go in that extra spot instead. But I think to keep that sporting integrity there, you need to have a conclusion, a somewhat competitive conclusion to the end of the season if you're sending Barrow up automatically.
I think in the Conference North it's a lot tighter as well, so it means that it's a lot more harsher just to send one up and then...
Because York and Kings Lynn have both been amazing this season. Like, it was very unfair to give one of them the title over the other. I think Kingston would go up on points per game, so they've got a 2.0.
And then it feels harsh to send York into the playoffs, but then you need that consistency for all the three leagues.
Yeah, and if York were good enough, they should win those games. The same with Harrogate, the same with Havant.
Exactly.
So,
going back to the sporting integrity you just mentioned, so there's a lot of talk about like the points per game is the fairest way to do it. If you look at the points per game, you've got teams like Barnet who are currently 11th because of fixtures and their pitch not being playable throughout the course of the season. They're actually on the points per game. They're projected to come 7th. So where do you stand on the way we should actually finish the season if they were to just end it completely like League Two and League One?
it's hard to say because there's no fair way of doing it, but you've got to adopt the same model as the EFL, I think. And if that means Barnet get in, it does. But at the same sense, it does seem harsh on the teams like, say, Stockport County and whoever who are in and around that spot, purely because they have put in the work and are there now. And who said Barnet are going to win these next 4 games they have in hand? Because in the National League, it's very unlikely that happens. As we all know, it's a highly competitive league.
It's like an extension of the Football League at times, especially with some of the clubs in it.
It really is. It's League 2.5.
And what we've got to note with Barnet as well, is that last season they were in a similar predicament with their pitch, but it was actually with their FA Cup run and their FA Trophy run. They had a lot of games in hand as well, and then didn't make the playoffs in the end. So the last couple of seasons they have always come up with ending up having a lot of games in hand over other teams above them. So I mean, as you say, it's quite unlikely that they're going to get the points that they would have done out of those 4 games and actually kept their points per game ratio at that same amount after playing those 4 games. But as Sam mentioned, I think we do have to just align with the EFL. So, I mean, there's not really much we can do with that, unfortunately. The season stopped when it stopped, and that we just got to move on with that and just give the teams the positions that they have got with their points per game ratio.
And the last thing, before the COVID break, we said semi-finals of the Trophy and Vase, and it's whether they're going to go ahead now because it's still actually not been confirmed to be cancelled. How important would it be for them teams, especially in the Vase, for that to undergo? Because obviously they've got their amateur clubs, they haven't got contracts to fulfil, so it'd probably be an easier feat to get them going than the Trophy. But would you cancel them, or would you?
I think you should let the clubs that are involved decide. Because I think that's the fairest way of doing it. If the FA can be like, look, you've got these weekends here. If you want to do it, you can. And the clubs that are involved is just put it to a vote to them and be like, look, we've got the facilities to do this. Because say, Notts County probably will have the facilities to do that. But say, the other teams involved,
Royston, Concord are probably not going to in reality.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of think it has to be made to kind of look like just kind of those who are involved. It's pointless, say, letting Yeovil Town vote or Willstone vote because they're not involved in it anymore. Just kind of the sensible thing would just be kind of decide between themselves.
You totally agree. Dec?
Yeah, I agree with Sam, to be honest with you, because obviously they're the 4 teams or however many teams that are left. They're the ones that are going to be impacted by a decision on it, as you say, not a Yeovil or any other clubs that aren't involved in the tournament anymore. It's not going to affect them. There's no point asking them. I agree with the Trophy and Vase as well to try and carry on because it's such a financial impact for these clubs that they benefit so much financially from these tournaments. Which, if you look higher up the pyramid, I don't believe the FA Cup should have restarted and continued this season. To be honest with you, I think it's not mandatory. I understand with the Premier League, you've got that integrity to finish it, but I don't think the FA Cup was as necessary as potentially finishing the league. But whereas with the Trophy and the Vase, there's such a financial implication. These teams might not get to Wembley again and things like that. So I would agree with Sam in that. Give the clubs that are still involved the chance to vote and see if they want to continue it or not.
Looking quickly at non-league as well, say with the promotions and relegations, it really does throw up quite some good games potentially for next year. Say Barnet against Wildstone, or say Boreham Wood Stevenage, some like decent kind of local derbies that could potentially happen next year if there are fans involved. Say, is that a somewhat silver lining of this situation?
I think the fixtures that are there, like you say, there's some of them games are massive. If like Harrogate don't go up and York do, that's a massive local game. And then you think of the attendances of them games and the money that comes with it. Again, it's like an extra revenue stream. It's like playing another 3 or 4 games, some of them games, in terms of attendances. So I think with them fans back, it will save some clubs, but it's a matter of time whether we can get people back into stadiums and distance people and make it as safe an environment as possible. Some grounds you can do it, but there's certain stadiums in National League North, National League South that just can't cater for social distancing.
Yeah, because say we had 5,000 at Hewish Park for the Torquay game on Boxing Day. I think if clubs can get that, at least 1,000 people booths for those Boxing Day derbies, that's going to be massive for every one of those clubs after the year they've just had. And especially if clubs can promo it and just like, this is your chance to come back the club, get us back on our feet. You're going to see some sellouts probably.
Yeah, I agree as well. And I think I sort of agree with Harry that, you know, some clubs will find it difficult to social distance. So, and I think the chances of social distancing still being in place by the time Boxing Day and New Year's Day rolls around, it's probably quite likely. So, you know, I think like from my take on it, clubs like Wildstone, I think like, and most non-league grounds in general, they're quite open spaces. You'd be surprised how many people you can actually fit in these open space stadiums. So I think social distancing, where you can still get a relatively decent number, which will really make a revenue impact. It's possible for clubs of those sort of stadiums. Whereas, you know, Yeovil, Notts County, Wrexham, you know, teams like that, they've got big stadiums, but they're obviously all seaters or mostly seated stadiums. So I guess the social distancing, and a bit more enclosed as well, stadiums. So they might find social distancing a bit harder. But we'll just have to see when the league restarts and just see where everyone's at with that.
We need to look what happens with Spain, because say they're going for the 25% capacity from September the 1st. So as much as it's a bit weird to let them do a dummy run of it, that might just have to be the way we go about it, and say start the league on October the 1st, get a pre-season in from late August, September. Because say by the time the non-league pyramid starts up again for playoffs, that's not going to be July at the earliest, really, at this stage. So kind of everything's going to be put on the back burner for at least 2 months playing catch up. So that's probably our most likely start date. I think social distancing, say, looking positively and probably realistically, start of 2021, you get a full stadium in then. So those 2 months of, say, 25% capacity might be what clubs have to just deal with.
Yeah, and I don't think these clubs will be able to play games behind closed doors. I don't think many of them will be able to afford it. You know, there's so many clubs in non-league that benefit so much from gate revenue. They almost live off it for quite a few of the clubs. So many of them won't be able to survive and play games without some sort of revenue from supporters coming in to the games. So even if, as you say there with Spain, even if it is when they start the season again, it's at a 20 or a 25% capacity, that will keep clubs afloat until social distancing can almost be removed. And that will really benefit most of the clubs, and as well in terms of the football structure in this country, where we can actually just continue with the football and not get left behind with not playing.
Well, the big rumour at the moment, especially within the Football League, is the government bailouts for all the clubs in there, say, especially for League One and League Two clubs, to say this will be your kind of financial belly up until you can get fans through the gate. So if they could adopt, say, a similar system for non-league, that could then lead to, say, have the month of October, November with no fans, but at least games are still happening.
I think that's quite a good way to do it, the way the government are just putting that money aside for them clubs. But then you're going to have the problem with, I don't know how many teams are still semi-pro in the National League, but it's I think...
you're talking single figures.
Yeah, it's definitely single figures. But then the problem then lies in the North and South with the teams that are semi-pro. Would the government be willing to put that money into clubs like that? who aren't actually paying like members of staff. It's a difficult area with the like government money, but I think like we said, the 25%. There's teams like, without like sounding like I'm digging at them, but Boreham would probably get 25% at a game anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of their stadium capacity. So for them, that would be like going back to normal, finally getting that revenue in. And then, but then you've got your teams like Chesterfield. Like when they played Notts County this season, it was a complete sellout. And then how do you can't have that. You need to regulate it.
Do you say for some teams it could be your 25% of it might luckily work out to be just people who are season ticket holders. So it might mean moving some season ticket holders around your stadium, but it could be something to at least give them some sort of taste of football for a couple months before
I think
it can
that's the
fully
best way
restart.
I mean, that would probably be the best way to do it. Would just start off with season ticket holders from the 1920 season until, like we say, we know when we're back to 100% and social distancing's out the window. Because I don't think many National League clubs have thousands of season ticket holders. They'll probably have like one or two. I mean, I don't know what the situation is at Yeovil as a former Football League club, but at Ebbsfleet, I think it's about 1,000, like 900 season ticket holders.
I think for us, it probably 2,000 tops, and say we're a 9,000 seater stadium, so that there would be in and around that 25%.
And it goes back to Dec about like an open stadium. It's quite an open plan, and you could probably open up that away end and just mark it off a bit more. I think it all depends on the club and the situation the club has with what their attendance is. But I think that, like you said, the trial in Spain will be key to see how football clubs globally can recover from this situation and get fans back on seats and get money back into the club as quick as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And there's still potential there to do streaming the games. And so if you just charge £5 to watch a game at 3:00, like you've got to get rid of that blackout realistically for football to survive now.
I think Sunderland haven't they done something along the lines of season ticket holders will all be given a link for the games to be watched if social distancing is still in place for the start of next season.
Yeah, I saw that on The Athletic, but I think it was...
like that.
Yeah, it's not been... I don't know, because I think they were getting battered for it a little bit, really, because it didn't count for away games and certain things, and it would mean they're not entitled to a refund. So I'm not... I don't want to be quoted on this, so I don't really know what...
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a... I know there was a lot of criticism for something about it, but I know they were willing to stream home games for season ticket holders, but I think that's quite a good way to do it. If National League clubs could do that and just charge like £5, £10 for the... just get people to see the games, and then that way you're still getting a bit of revenue into the club and you're still kind of surviving with a bit of income.
Yeah, well, BT are able to have the game streamed to them for every game, so I don't see why that then can't be distributed out further. So even if it's, say, done via BT Sport or a company that's hired by the league, and then say you get a revenue split between the league and the club, then surely that's a positive for all. No, I can't see why that wouldn't be the case.
I think the only thing on that is that with the National League, there's obviously an embargo in place with in terms of getting highlights out. So whenever we come up with these good ideas, which are good ideas, they then have to go to the leagues, whether that's the Football League, the National League, whoever it may be. So it kind of be down to the regulations potentially being changed by the National League in order to get them sort of ideas going.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what Dec said about the just like needing the revenue of a fan coming in, and if you can't by law get them people into the stadium, something like a stream with BT Sport would be so good to have. I mean, if even like I said, just charging season ticket holders, how many games are left? Is it 9?
Yeah. So everyone's got an average of 4 or 5 home games left. So
and then just going, well, you just pay. Like, even if you just cut it down the middle and just go like 15 quid till the end of the season, you get all the home and away games and you're getting money, and you think how many fans would be into that, and then you could still get your football fix if you haven't got a BT Sport or a Sky Sport at home, and just because it's a tough time for everyone nationally at the minute.
Definitely. And like, some people aren't interested in watching the Premier League football as much as it's nice that it's coming back. Some people want to watch, they like football because it's their team, and they don't want to watch another team. So having Premier League back is okay. Yeah, that's great. But for those of us who say might not want to watch that and would rather go and watch Yeovil Town, go and watch Wealdstone, Ebbsfleet, or whoever, that then gives them at least somewhat of a taste of that again.
I think the annoying thing is, though, is especially in non-league, the annoying thing for them is, they get a lot of gate receipts from people that just want to see live football. They may not necessarily be a fan of the specific clubs playing. They just want to see live sport, and they've maybe been priced out by the Premier League. Who knows? In terms of their ticket prices, so they're there to see live football and actually be there in the flesh and have their presence known, singing, chanting, whatever it may be. So you lose that element, which probably means then you won't get as many people say streaming a game for Fiverr or whatever than actually being at the game itself, because you lose those sort of like ground hopping casual people that go to games just to go to games.
I think the best example of that is that last weekend of the non-league football, because obviously it was an extra weekend beyond from the National League. I think Dulwich Hamlet sold out, and like a number of clubs saw boost attendances of say 500 plus.
3,500.
And I think that's just people watch, like say, it proves your point that people watch non-league because they just want to watch football half the time. I think maybe in Yeovil it's a slightly different because it's such a kind of isolated club in terms of its location, and same for clubs like Weymouth and your Torquays and clubs like that who are kind of a bit more shunted out the way. But your clubs in London, like say for Wealdstone or Dulwich, streaming the games might not be as financially viable.
I think we'd still benefit a lot. Us specifically, I don't know. I'm sure Dulwich would as well. But I think I'm from the experiences of me going to Dulwich, I feel like the ratio of actual Dulwich fans and people that just want to watch football is far higher than that same ratio at Wealdstone. I feel like a lot of people have become fans at Wealdstone, and you see them more regularly. Obviously, I haven't been to Dulwich more than a couple of times, so I can't extensively comment on that. But for us personally, it'd be a big benefit, and I think we definitely wouldn't get the same numbers, but we'd be near enough there, because we were selling. I think we have 700 season ticket holders, and we average around 1,000. So most people that go to our games are season ticket holders. So a lot of them would probably still pay for, say, a live stream or whatever. So for us personally, it would still greatly benefit us financially.
I think that's the beauty of non-league clubs. Have such a good core base of supporters who would be willing to pay that £5 just to keep the club moving until they can get back in the stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's what you get with non-league, because you're so close and you're so like you can go whenever you want, and like there's no it's not like the Premier League where you're idolizing superstars. When it's non-league, you're idolizing people you can relate to, and like you can talk to the manager yourself, like face to face. It's not like a Jose Mourinho where the best chance you'll have is if he's in a park teaching one of the players how to play, or whatever it may be, or if it's I saw Laporte in a park earlier in the lockdown, and Tyrone Mings and things like that. That's the best chance you're going to get to see these Premier League players. Whereas at non-league, after a game, you go in the bar, you can talk to players, managers, whoever it may be. So you can really galvanise the whole non-league scene and really get that connection with specific clubs, and that's why non-league has such a hardcore fan base at specific clubs.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's quite a nice way to kind of bring that to a conclusion, really, on the non-league side of things, because you say everyone's going to want to back their club because every club's like a family, and you can say the same for League Two clubs as well in some cases. But I think really in non-league, it's kind of just that mentality is really hammered home, as it were. So Dec, on to you now. What's your topic this week?
My topic this week, I'm going to grab my phone because I'm going to need it, is Football Index. I've started trading with a couple of players this week just to kind of get my grips of it. I know a bit about stocks, but have no idea what stocks to invest in. So I've kind of gone to Football Index, obviously an easy way because of the knowledge of football that I have. And if I go on here now, I'll sort of explain my progress. But essentially, a brief description of Football Index. I don't know too much about it. I literally signed up like 4 days ago. So if there's anything wrong, please excuse me. And if you've got any tips in the comments, let me know because I want to make some money. But
yes, we all do. Please comment that.
Exactly. So essentially, you're dealing with stocks that go up and down with footballers. So you want to be investing in, say, young players who are in the media a lot and are getting moves to big clubs like Man United and teams like that. And you essentially get dividends. So some days, if you've got a top player who's performed well in real life, and I think the stats come from Opta, so they're all pretty official stats. And basically, if you've got the best stats and you're one of the top performers, and you'll get a certain amount. I think it's like you'll get 5p per share or something like that if your player's a top performer in a certain position. It definitely depends on how many games are played across the top 5 leagues. But say for the Bundesliga at the moment, if it's a Saturday, then you probably get like 5p per share or something. And then there's other days where you get media dividends. So if a player's like been all over the media on a specific day, say Timo Werner at the moment, who's been in the news and he's been racking up a lot of media points. So if you've got Timo Werner, then you know that you're getting a lot of media dividends, which is dividends are basically instant money. So you'll get, say, 5p a share or something straight away. I haven't invested in anyone like that, other than Ben Chilwell, who's been in the news recently for his potential moves. But other than that, I've kind of just invested in players that are young and who I think are going to go up in value as their career progresses. I think there's a 3-year limit on how long you can hold the shares for, but I'm just going to explain my progress so far. So I've got the app open. I invested a bit, like £85, I think I put in on.
Smashing it, mate. You're smashing it.
On Friday. Oh yeah, I had a bit of work this week, so I thought I'd treat myself. So yeah, I put in £85, and I've put my money into 4 players. So obviously, as I mentioned, Ben Chilwell, and he's gone up 3p per share in value since I bought him. Yeah, so I did miss out on dividends for him though, because he was high on the media list, but he wasn't in the top 3. So I unfortunately didn't get any dividends for him. But I think I've made 45p in value so far, which if I was to sell him, then I'd get roughly that amount. So we've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's not been in the news for any media related stuff. He's obviously at Man United, probably not going to have a move anytime soon. I just think he was a player that's going to go up in value in his career. He's still relatively young, early 20s. I think he's in the top 2 best English right backs right now. So, you know, the chance of him going to the Euros and the World Cup very high. So, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, he's gone up 4p since I bought him as well. I bought 6 shares of him, so I've made roughly around 24p in value of him so far. Next player, so I've only got 2 left after these 2. Bukayo Saka at Arsenal. We've got 2 Arsenal players, and Saka was one of them. Obviously, such a youngster. I think he's going to get a position change. So obviously, he's been playing left back, but on here he's down as a winger. I think you can performance dividends if they are out of position. So if he gets a move to left back, his value should go up. So hopefully he gets a position change on the app. Well, I bought 10 shares in him. He hasn't gone up or down so far. So we haven't made or lost anything on him. And finally, we've got Joe Willock as well. So obviously one of the main things with stocks, which is the only rule that I know about stocks, is that you buy low and you sell high. And I just saw Joe Willock at quite a low price per share. And I've made 35p on him so far. He's gone up 5p per share. So far I've made about £1 in like 4 days in terms of the shares we've made. Which,
absolute stonks.
You know what? It's not a lot, but at least I haven't lost any money so far. Because it is still gambling, because you're obviously hoping for players to perform well on the pitch. So you are kind of gambling on these players playing well. But I'm more investing in their career, and I think they're going to go up in value as their career goes on, rather than getting, say, quick dividends on media and stuff like that. So
I was going to say, my next question was going to be, why have you started this when there's literally no Premier League football happening, despite buying 4 Premier League footballers?
I've started it because obviously the Premier League is coming back and their stocks are low. So when the Premier League is back, hopefully people will start investing in these. Hopefully my players play well, and then people who invest in them, their share will go up, and I'll be getting dividends from that in play and in their shares as well. But what's great about Joe Willock is that he scored a goal in a behind closed doors game against Charlton on the weekend, and that's why his stock went up. So at the time I was like, oh, was this a good idea to invest in him? And then he scored that goal and then his price went up. So I didn't get any dividends because it wasn't a proper game like in the Premier League, but his price still went up. Same as if you look at Nketiah, he scored a hat-trick. His price has gone up like 20p since like Saturday, which is like quite a bit of a jump. So when it comes to that stuff, I'm just buying low and hoping that these players play well, because I back all of them, to be fair. So especially the 5 subs, I thought with the 5 subs in the Premier League, players like Willock and Saka will have a more impactful opportunity, especially under Arteta, who will give these guys a chance. So, and obviously Wan-Bissaka and Chilwell, they're going to play every game as long as they're fit. So I thought it was just they're 4 players that I just know hopefully will make me money in the house so far.
The Wolf of Ricelet, mate. You're going to make stonks.
I don't know why I even got into it in the first place. I think it was an ad on YouTube or something. I was like,
I think, you know what? Ads everywhere.
I think it was. I'd seen the ads, but I actually think it was a Trading 212 ad that I clicked on, and then I was like, because I saw one of my mates was into shares and that, and I was like, well, I'll have a little look around. I didn't put anything into Trading 212. I just downloaded the app, see what was happening. So I wanted to invest in oil, because oil is obviously going to go up. I don't know why, but it is what it is. But then I just thought, I just thought football. I just thought football then was just easier because I have more of an idea of what's going on and what a decent price for a player is. So it made more sense than investing into companies and products that I have no idea about. So it would have been pointless.
See, I've been scarred of Football Index because I know somebody and they've got it. They put Andre Gomez in, and on that weekend, he broke his leg against Tottenham.
Oh, really? See, that's why they say it's gambling, because they can't be held accountable for things like that.
So I've not bothered going near it, but you've sold it. Might have to have a look.
I think it's good. I mean, obviously, I've had no collapse, so I'm going to say it's good.
I'll be honest, about 3 months ago, I put a tenner into it. This is for Corona, so I might have been a bit before that, actually. But I got Scott McTominay in there, Benik Afobe, because I was like, he's injured, but he was like on the verge of coming back. So I was like, if he starts banging for Bristol City, that's a good investment. And I can't remember what the other ones were. I only bought like 1 or 2 shares in each one. I was up, to be fair, but when coronavirus happened, I was like, I'm going to sell quick because these shares are going to shoot down. So I made like 20p. But it is what it is.
That's fair enough, though. Like, at least you were smart enough to. I obviously started it after coronavirus, so I don't know what anyone's prices were beforehand. But you made your 20p. You got out of there. You didn't lose any money, so is what it
Money
is.
maker, ladies. If you want a man who's got stonks, you know my Twitter.
Yo, Down FC.
yeah, our YTFC, mate. That's the one. Right, boys.
Yeah.
Every week.
That's my topic.
Every week, I'm going to drop you a hypothetical question, and it's just up to you to pick your answer, right? And we have spoke briefly about this before on a different podcast, which was nicely called Talking on League, which I think we'll mention at some point. So it's better to get that out of the way now. So the question is, if you could turn any non-league side, but not the one you support, into a top 6 Premier League club, who would it be and why? Declan or O'Reilly? Go for it, son.
I think if I was to do anyone, I'm trying to think who's in our league, because they're going to be the clubs I know best. You know what? because Sam will be happy. I'm going to say Slough Town. I think Slough
Yeah.
Town. You know, they're a well-run club. The town that needs a football club, and I think Slough Town are the one. And I'll tell you what, they've got really good facilities as well, and obviously they'll have to improve those should they become a top 6 Premier League club. I think I'd go Slough.
Go on then. Go on, Harry. Who are you thinking?
I'm also going from the National League South because I think every team in the National League has pushed me to the point of stopping supporting non-league this season. At one point or another. I'll go Dulwich Hamlet.
Okay.
Supporter base, club run by their fans, got kicked out their stadium and their fans got thousands of people to sign a petition to get back. So you know that you've got a loyal fan base run by good people and their atmosphere is very good.
Right. I'm going to go a bit left field here. I think I've told you this before, but I'm going to say it again for those that are listening. So, Mum, enjoy this one. I'm going Truro City. I think Cornish football's highest tier of football club is the Southern League. It deserves Premier League. Mate, those surfer boys need to start watching football as well. And I think Truro City should be a Premier League team competing for the Champions League. Imagine Messi flying into Newquay Airport, like, not a clue what's going on, sees all these people that sound like pirates, and, like, honestly, a brilliant day out. I think all the people down at Treyu Road, or however you say it, that could create a hell of an atmosphere with
I'm sorry, but
no
I just
roof.
don't like the idea of Newcastle going to Truro on their Wednesday night game.
That's amazing. That's the beauty of it. Think people complain about Plymouth. You got another hour and a half on top of that point. Down you come. Get amongst it. get on
I mean, they are the pride of Cornwall, aren't they? So can't front it. I'll tell you what, they have been spending a bit of money though, Truro, recently.
I know they got Rocky Nil from Taunton. This is a good story, actually. So
they've raided Taunton. They've raided them, haven't they? Pretty much. We've taken loads of their players.
Like a certain club last season with another certain club.
Yes, Haven't and Bromley. So yeah, Taunton, right? Their best player was a guy called Rocky Nil, and he did his like metatarsal or something like that at the end of last season. So the fans started like a crowdfunder or a GoFundMe to pay for his surgery. It was so it cost them $3,000, and obviously coronavirus happened, so he would be fit now. And instead of returning to play for Taunton, he's just gone and joined title rivals Truro.
Wait a second.
Drop those claps in the chat.
I mean, it's an incredible story, isn't it?
That's amazing.
You've got to respect the balls of that man. You really do.
Like, I do feel sorry for the fans. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is quite.
That is absolutely fantastic. Like levels of scoring a header at the Etihad and running the length of the pitch.
That's like, imagine Kane Ferdinand joining Aldershot. Like,
Scott Rendell was at Woking. He's now Aldershot captain. Every time he scores, he just runs past everyone doing that. And then that bloody advertising balls at Woking just go.
I saw that and I was like, because Taunton tweeted that they released him, and like there was like people going like quite mad in the comments, but people were like saying, "Oh, I hope you got a Football League move." But in the article, it said he joined Truro City, but Truro hadn't put it out, so he was getting battered on socials. And then when Truro put it out, like, all these Taunton fans have flooded it straight away, like calling him like a scumbag and everything. But it is amazing.
It's a work of art, something like that. It really is.
He's claimed it wasn't a decision out of malice or whatever, and it was a purely footballing decision. But
for anyone who joined Ebbsfleet between 2013 to 2019, I swear I haven't moved because of the money.
Oh man, that's a great story. I'm glad we brought that up.
I know, honestly I saw it and I was like, I've got to tell this on, make a podcast and tell everyone about it. honestly what
It's the whole
inspired.
reason we started this podcast in the first place, wasn't it?
Indeed.
Is it too early to call him the non-league Adebayor?
I don't think it is, I really hope he's... If I'm free on
I'm
Truro,
watching his career
I'm
post.
definitely going. Big Rocky nil. Thing is, though, actually, loads of Yeovil fans were like, "Oh yeah, we should sign him," and fair enough, each to their own. But like the fact that he's just now gone and joined Truro, he might not be as good as you guys thought.
Yeah.
Like, each to their own. But I'd say I've only seen him play once, twice, I think, and he didn't really set the world alight. But admittedly, they were both against Football League clubs in Exeter and Yeovil. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can get Truro up, because obviously with Tyler Harvey up front as well, and soon to be a Premier League club, like it's going to be massive for them.
Front too, isn't it?
It's not bad, is it?
Dynamic duo. I mean, you do well in the division above with them two.
Definitely. Well, I think if people were trying to sell him off for a Football League move, and he's just gone and stay in the same division, he must be all right. Well, boys, I think this might be a good way to end the podcast on that lovely story. So thanks for coming on, fellas, and that classic 2012 YouTuber goodbye with that salute. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like if you're on YouTube. I don't know how you rate things on Apple Podcast. I think it's like drop a 5-star. Might be on Spotify, might not be. Don't know. Just put it on an RSS feed and just going on for whatever. Just, listen again, really. That's all I care about. Yeah, don't know. Anything you guys want to say? Anything you want to plug?
Just get us numbers, please.
Yeah.
Really need them numbers.
Follow us all on Twitter. They'll be in and the actual Twitter as well. Just you might want to.
What's the app for that Twitter?
At
MBMR podcast.
I think it is. It must be.
Yeah. So twitter.com/MBMR podcast. Follow it. Great content. And you'll hear more from us as well in the next one.